Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, July the 6th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm host the most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a family-friendly podcast. At least we try to be. Sometimes there may be things that might be shown, and there might be words that may fly, maybe still too intense for younger viewers. But again, viewer discretion is advised. Well, it would be beyond me not to talk about the elephant in the room because it's becoming all too common that America definitely does have a gun control problem. And unfortunately, in the Highland area, it seems to be another battle zone for someone else to take it upon themselves to take advantage of America's very loosely gun laws and decide to inflict harm and terror.
This morning, new details emerging about the man charged with killing 7 people at the 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois. Authorities say back in April of 2019, someone who knew the suspect called police to report he had attempted suicide, and months later, police were called to his home after a relative said he was threatening to kill his family.
A family member reported that Cremo said he was going to kill everyone, and Cremo had a collection of knives.
He was not arrested that day, but according to police, they confiscated more than a dozen knives and a sword.
At that time, there was no probable cause to arrest. There were no complaints that were signed by any of the victims.
On Tuesday, authorities searching the home where the suspect lives with his uncle Paul say they found more legally bought guns. Despite the prior incidents revealed by police, Paul Cremo insists there were no signs his nephew would carry out such an attack.
There's no warning signs.
Overnight, ABC News learning the suspect cleared 4 background checks between June 2020 and September 2021 and was able to legally buy the murder weapon. Illinois has some of the strictest gun laws in the country, including so-called red flag laws, but they did not come into play because the family never filed what's known as an extreme risk protection order. The president of the advocacy group Every Town for Gun Safety saying, quote, the shooter exhibited some dangerous warning signs, exactly what Illinois' red flag law is designed to address, but tools are only useful when they're taken out of the toolbox. Officials late Tuesday handed down first-degree murder charges.
The Lake County State's Attorney's Office has charged Robert Cremo III with 7 counts of first-degree murder. These are just the first of many charges that will be filed against Mr. Cremo. I want to emphasize that.
The prosecutor saying dozens of additional charges are likely. Authorities revealing the suspect fired more than 70 rounds into the parade crowd and dressed as a woman to hide his distinctive tattoos and blend into the crowd. Police say he had been planning the attack for weeks. The FBI and local police are poring over his social media footprint. Sources say they're finding a disturbing series of posts and videos that potentially point to a day of carnage. But those posts were never brought to law enforcement's attention.
We were not made aware of these videos.
Among the 7 victims of the attack, the parents of 2-year-old Aiden McCarthy. Aiden was found alive and covered in blood under the body of his father. The little boy now among the crowd of survivors whose lives are forever changed.
Our lives are going to be forever changed. It's going to take time to overcome it. I know that, but we will be okay because it's Highland Park strong.
Officials say so far there is no indication the victims were targeted because of their race or religion.
Okay, so again, that is another person that just has access to firearms. And we can keep going around this. I know if you guys have saw this podcast, you know I've went into this way too many times. And that those on the Fox News variety, which I expect that they will be squawking about gun laws and be like, see, We talked about Chicago, not realizing this happened in Highland, Illinois, not Chicago, Illinois. But they won't make the distinction because they'll sit there and scream, well, these are the strictest gun laws, and yet this was able to happen. Well, it only happened because, well, number one, we don't have enough gun legislation. We had red flag laws, but as you heard, the family did not notify. Otherwise, the red flag laws that would have been in place would have immediately removed all weapons from this very troubled, terrorist is what I call him. He's a terrorist. He's not troubled. He's a terrorist. He knew exactly what he wanted to do and had the means, motive, and opportunity to do it. He is a terrorist. So I wouldn't be surprised after, 7 counts of murder and more charges pending, he might actually get the death penalty for this. But unfortunately, that wasn't the only shooting that's occurred over this July 4th weekend. And it's sad to report this, but
panic in Philadelphia. July 4th celebrations taking a traumatizing turn when gunfire breaks out. A reporter from our NBC station in the middle of an interview.
Oh God.
As a mad dash ensues. 2 police officers were shot and wounded, one narrowly escaping with his life after a bullet grazed his forehead, seen lodged into the side of his cap. All part of another holiday weekend marred by gun violence, with more than a dozen mass shootings across the country, many of them on July 4th, including in Richmond, Virginia. 72 people shot in Chicago alone. Back in Philadelphia, an exasperated mayor saying he can't wait to leave office.
I'm waiting for something bad to happen all the time. So I'll be happy when I'm not here, when I'm not mayor, and I can enjoy some stuff.
Though today, walking back his comments, he says were made out of frustration. Philadelphia set a record high for murders last year. A surge in crime reflected in many parts of the country, leaving Americans now on edge. Panicked crowds in Orlando. Police there say about a dozen were injured in the scramble for safety, some reportedly even jumping into a lake out of desperation.
I was freaking out. There's like thousands of people coming this way at me.
An all too familiar panic for too many. Just days ago, President Biden signed into law a bipartisan gun bill, though critics know many of the cities where these shootings happened, including here in Pennsylvania, have some of the country's toughest gun restrictions. Meanwhile, the U.S. has now surpassed 300 mass shootings just halfway through the year.
So there's one thing I want to point out. That yes, these all happen in areas where gun law is the strictest, but not as strict as you think. Considering the fact that the gun bill that they just talked about, the bipartisan gun bill, was literally and figuratively more directed at Republicans, giving incentive to states to actually engage red flag laws. Again, why do states need incentive? I mean, preventing loss of life should be a big incentive in itself. The fact that they still have not raised the age of firearms, the federal age. I mean, there are some states, in fact, that have went ahead and taken it upon themselves to raise the age to 21. There's still a lot of states out there where you're 18 years old and you could still buy firearms, but you can't order a drink from a bar and you can't buy alcohol from anywhere else. And the fact that universal background checks are not enforced everywhere. They're only enforced in commercial sales, private sales, and gun, knife, and trade shows don't require it. So yes, you can have a lot of registration, but we don't have enough. And that's the problem, that you got guys like the most recent shooter, like the person in Uvalde, Texas, like Parkland, and Sandy Hook, and we can keep going on, because the true terrorists are simply allowing a loose law to allow them to obtain firearms. And it's messed up. It's really, I'm trying to be nice and not cuss, but again, where else do you get from this? That, oh, well, how do we stop this? Finally do what other countries have done. We need to move forward and we need to have restrictions. We need to have qualifications. We need to have a lot of things met and put in place across a federal board. You know what I honestly wish? I honestly wish that they would treat gun control the same way they like to treat oppression on women's bodies with abortion. Like, people, they can say they're divided, but let's be honest. You're going to have those folks out there that believe abortion is murder. You're going to have the rest of us who are literally thinking and saying, well, you have to preserve choice. Just because you yourself may not like abortion, but we have to preserve the choice to allow somebody to do it. I mean, it's just that simple. But again, I wish those that are on the other side were just as passionate about gun reform, about actually restricting laws, about doing across the states and enforcing that above all else than being worried about what a woman will do with her own baby. I'm just saying. But the funny thing, like I said, and I don't want to, like I said, I always want to show both sides. And I sat there and said, when I first saw this, I'm like, Fox News is going to eat this up. The three-headed hydra of Hannity, of Ingram, of douchebag Tucker Carlson, though I call them the three-headed hydra of Fox, they will eat this up. I mean, will they talk about the loose? Will they talk about how gun laws don't work? Since Illinois is such a heavily gun law state, and yet this person was able to get it. Will they talk about the fact that the gangs of Chicago somehow infiltrating Highland, Illinois, and causing all this mass hysteria? Will they somehow blame minorities for some active violence that they always done in their subtle sense? Nope. You know what they blamed? Women and weed. I wish I could make this up.
Would you sell a gun to that guy? Does he seem like a nutcase? Of course he does. So why didn't anyone raise an alarm? Well, maybe because he didn't stand out. Maybe because there are a lot of young men in America who suddenly look and act a lot like this guy. It's not an attack, it's just true. Like Cremo, they inhabit a solitary fantasy world of social media, porn, and video games. They're high on government-endorsed weed. Smoke some more, it's good for you. They're numbed by the endless psychotropic drugs that are handed out in every school in the country by crackpots posing as counselors. And of course, they're angry. They know that their lives will not be better than their parents. They'll be worse. That's all but guaranteed. They know that. They're not that stupid. And yet the authorities in their lives, mostly women, never stops lecturing them about their so-called privilege. You're male, you're privileged. Imagine that. Try to imagine an unhealthier, unhappier life than that. So a lot of young men in America are going nuts. Are you surprised? And by the way, a shockingly large number of them have been prescribed psychotropic drugs by their doctors, SSRIs or antidepressants. And that would include quite a few mass shooters.
Here's the clip from Laura.
But instead of selling fear and division, wouldn't it be nice if we all began to focus on solutions? Don't people want solutions? I sense they do. Now, on the mass shooting in Illinois, indications are that Robert Cremo was a regular pot user. Now, one look at him, and to the untrained eye, he looks like a complete psychotic. Have you ever seen anyone looking like him? And what can regular pot use trigger in young men in particular? Psychosis and other violent personality changes. Not everyone, but a significant percentage.
By now, you know that
Okay, so thank you, Media Touch, for those clips. Really appreciate it. So, Dr. Carlson, a lot of these men are angry because of weed, video games, and antidepressants. I don't smoke weed. I do play video games. Video games have never made me decide to go take on a whole bunch of people for no reason, or take out a whole bunch of people for no reason. Video games have never made me angry. Video games have never made me feel like I need to go cause harm to others. Video games never did that. Now, again, I don't smoke weed. I'm all for it, because I said it before, marijuana has many, many, many medical properties as well as mechanical and agricultural out there in the world. And those states that have made weed legal are not having money problems at all. They are not having money problems at all. But it amazes me because I thought he was going to mention Chicago, but no. He goes, oh, well, their lives aren't going to be any better. They're being oppressed by women. They're being told that they're not good enough. They're being given weed by their school counselors. What school do you go to? Your counselor sat there and said, look, I know things are rough right now. I know things are, life might be getting you down, but here, have some kush. What school was that allowed? Because I would think if your high school counselor is giving you weed, that is the most laid back. That school has zero crime. I'm gonna be honest with you. That school, if that guidance counselor is giving out weed, number one, attendance is 100%. Nobody, they'll be too stoned to move. Number two, you can guarantee everybody's in the cafeteria or vending machines because everybody's gonna be hungry. But violence, I don't see that. And not to quote one of my favorite comedians, but Cat Williams said it best. Weed has never made me anything but happy, hungry, sleepy. That's it. That's the side effects. So it's amazing to me that, of course, douchebag Tucker Carlson is leaning on those things, and of course, violent video games, which again has been debunked many, many times. Violent video games has never led to the type of thing that happens at Columbine or Sandy Hook or Pulse nightclub or any of the other unfortunate, horrific events that have occurred in our past. Video games never been a part of that. But you know what has been a part of that? The fact that our gun laws, the fact that amosexuals and those who have a really extreme affinity for firearms get out of place whenever there's a shooting. Not the fact that, you know, lives were lost and that someone took it upon themselves to end those lives that were innocent. No, they see it as an attack on them. Oh, they're coming for our guns, which, by the way, nobody's coming for your guns. Well, they're going to make it hard to get guns, as they should. As they should. They should make it harder. You know why they have to make it harder? Because like most things, somebody messes it up for the rest of us, so now we all have to pay for it. You learned it in school, you learn it as an adult. And again, as a firearms owner, I'm all for it. What more do I need to do? Take a yearly class to qualify? Cool. Take a mental evaluation? Cool. Background check? Go ahead and do it. I am all for that because number one, I know I have no issues passing it. And number two, it's to make sure we're all safe. That's the one thing that takes away from all this. But again, Laura Ingraham, the same way. Oh, well, maybe we need to blame it on women and just the weed. I'm like, this is Fox News doing what they do best. As I said before, Fox News is not a news station. They got called that out in court. They even admitted they're not a news station. They are meant to keep their viewers hostile, angry, and dissident, and as well ignorant. So, again, I was trying to find something from Sean Handy, but I guess he's saving it up for his weekend. But moving right along, guys, unfortunately, there's other news that's involving school shootings, especially back in Uvalde, Texas, which seems like forever and a day ago, that the mayor is finally saying what we've all been saying about the DPS there in Texas. Because, yes, if it looks like a cover-up, it smells like a cover-up, quack, quack.
DPS, they're covering up.
McGraw's covering up
for who?
For maybe his agencies, or maybe he told the story he told that it's hard. What do they say? It's always hard when you tell a lie. You have to keep telling a lie. I'm not saying he's lying. Maybe he was misled with the information.
But he hasn't changed his story, right?
No,
since
but
that
also,
Friday, he did, and then he did the Senate hearing.
Yeah,
and I think that
which was
even more. He was even more emphatic about Chief Arredondo being the man who is responsible for everything here, blaming everything on him.
Well, again, every agency in that hallway is going to have to share the blame. And like I said, again, I'll go back to, when have you ever seen a federal or state law enforcement officer take their cues from local law enforcement?
DPS is a big agency in this state, and the governor, they report directly to the governor.
Sure.
So do you think McGraw should step aside, should step down, should resign?
I think that he's going to have to be held accountable when this is all said and done too. We all are. Like I said, your story can't change on something this horrific 4 times in 3 days. And that's what it's done. Let's be candid.
Yeah.
When I got to that scene, there were 30 to 40 DPS officers already on scene. In the various videos you see from outside, you see DPS officers run around with flak jackets on and ballistic helmets on and different things. That's video that's been shown from the outside. But yet, we want to talk about no presence of DPS there in the hallway. I know at one time there were 14 of them in the hallway. Now, if they stayed there or not, I can't tell you because I hadn't seen the video. But, like I said, if this is a failure, it's a failure on everybody's part.
Well, it is a failure. You can't say if this is a failure.
Well,
you have to say it is a failure.
It is a failure, but that failure, every agency there has to own part of it.
Your issue is that everything is being pointed towards one place.
Sure.
In some way.
And if we point the truth, if we point everything over here, then the truth is not going to come out. And these families in this community, they deserve to know what happened.
Are you concerned that the truth is not going to come out?
I think we will get to the truth. I think they put themselves in a corner and they don't have a way out yet. And they're just trying to figure out because they've released so much BS, in my opinion, that they put themselves in a corner. So how do you come out of the corner?
Well, how do you come out the corner? It's pretty bad when the mayor of Uvalde, Texas is saying, yeah, they're covering up something. Even more so to the where it's like you can't argue when this event also happened in Uvalde, Texas.
At the center of the controversy surrounding the police response to the mass shooting at Robb Elementary is quitting city council. It is in the best interest of the community to step down to minimize further distractions, he wrote in a letter to the Uvalde community. The Uvalde School District Police Chief has been a target of the community's frustration since the shooting that left 21 dead.
These kids were obliterated. My sister was obliterated.
Arredondo was elected to the council just before the shooting and sworn in behind closed doors 1 week after.
How did it feel when you heard the news that he'd resigned?
I mean, it's still a baby step, He failed at his job and that failed our kids.
Javier Casares' 9-year-old daughter, Jackie, was one of the children killed at Robb Elementary.
To me, it's never going to be enough because, we can't have our child back. So for me, it's never going to be enough.
According to state officials, Arredondo was the on-scene commander during the May 24th shooting, as officers waited in the hall for an hour while a gunman was firing inside the classrooms. Arredondo maintains he was not the incident commander that day and told the Texas Tribune he didn't issue any orders. Arredondo's lawyer did not respond today to NBC News. The city of Uvalde called the decision to resign the, quote, right thing to do. For now, Arredondo is on administrative leave from his role as school district police chief, while authorities' response that day remains under investigation by state officials.
And Priscilla, what is the latest on the investigation into police response to the shooting that day?
Jose, hearings are continuing behind closed doors, but the families of the victims say they aren't getting that information, and frustration is growing. Jose.
So it just goes to show you, folks, maybe the mayor had a point. I mean, the guy who literally and figuratively dodging everything, dodging questions, dodging his actions, questioning his actions there at the site thereof, dodging everything. And then at the end of it all, he resigns. And that's part of it. Resigning is just meaning he's going to keep his pension. That's part of it. The other part of it is just that it leaves a lot of parents, and I don't blame them. A lot of parents are PO'd, as they should, because now we look at what the mayor said, that this feels like a cover-up. It's almost the point now. It's like, well, is he wrong? Is he wrong? Because I've sat there and said this since we covered this. I said this smells like a cover-up. Because if they immediately know they did wrong, then this should be a slam dunk. This is kind of like, all right, we fucked up. We'll fix it. Here it is. Should be easy. But, it just goes to show you that, yes, somebody's heads are going to roll. But when the mayor himself is sitting there saying, it feels like a cover-up. And even with that police chief resigning, how else can you sit there and not say a cover-up is not brewing? But we'll follow that story as it develops. Moving on, guys, it is amazing to me that, the January 6th Commission is looking into this and they're making it public. And, man, it is, so much has came out. And I tell people all the time, the January 6th Commission is the reason why we need it. And it should be needed, especially in a midterm election season. But the simple fact of the matter is, guys, we need that out there for this reason, because you need to know, number one, who still sides with Trump. Number two, that Trump is criminally responsible for starting that group of insurrectionists to be terrorists and go stop an electoral count. And number three, everybody else involved, because trust me, a lot of people are clamoring up right now, but it amazes me so that death threats are going to happen. And, you would think those followers of Trump, and I'm not insinuating that they are, but let's also be honest, when it comes to simple fact of the matter, when death threats are put out, especially from those investigating Trump, you immediately think that, oh, I feel sorry for all the Democrats literally on that January 6th commission. The problem is the Democrats in this case are not being targeted. It's the Republicans.
I guess I can't say a whole lot more other than I hope you naturally die as quickly as possible.
This morning, Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger sharing a compilation of threatening messages his office has received in response to his work on the committee investigating the attack on the Capitol.
We know who your family is, and we're going to get you. Get your little get your wife, go get your kids.
Kinzinger is a father to a baby born earlier this year. The audio posted to his Twitter account includes more than a dozen messages.
We know where you live. We're coming to your house. Gonna get you, Mike.
Kinzinger and Liz Cheney are the only Republicans on the January 6th committee.
We're gonna get you. Coming to your house, son. Gonna get you and Liz Cheney.
Kinzinger saying threats of violence over politics has increased heavily in the last few years, but the darkness has reached new lows. The committee's next public hearing will be Tuesday and will focus on the white nationalist groups who took part in the riot. While the hearings in Washington are expected to wrap up this month, a criminal investigation in Georgia looking into election interference now appears to be ramping up.
So let's stop it right there because that's talking about Trump allies maybe getting involved, but that story is developing. But for the simple fact of the matter is, that's a Republican. Adam Kinzinger is a Republican along with Liz Cheney on the January 6th commission. And we already knew that Liz Cheney was already getting death threats. Now Adam Kinzinger is. And I'm just thinking to myself, who else would turn around in that situation, would go after their own kind, except those that were insinuated or empowered by one Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump is still fanning that flame. Donald Trump still thinks in 2024 that he can still he can still be president. I hope that's not the case. I kept thinking one of these multiple lawsuits that he's in will finally take him down, or will finally, discredit him from running for presidency. But it's always that nagging feeling that maybe in 2 years, he could try again. I mean, if he's still out and free. But regardless, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, threatening lives, that's terrorist in my opinion. Which I'm pretty sure that him and his wife and child are definitely going to be on a lock and key because they wasted no time protecting the Supreme Court when they overturned Roe versus Wade. But it's amazing that the ones that need protection of the Supreme Court were all conservatives. Again, I've got nothing against protests. I don't think you should do it in front of somebody's house, regardless of how you feel about it. I don't think you should do it in front of somebody's house. That's an area that's a little bit gone too far. I mean, you could protest them at their job. You can protest them. You can protest them at the actual government building. You could do all that just fine. But going directly to their home and protesting is a step wee bit too far. But for those that leave voicemails like that, that takes a disgusting type of human to literally and figuratively decide to call someone's voicemail, not realizing that you possibly could be tracked with your dumb ass, and found out you made threats against congressmen, which Capitol Police and Secret Service and Homeland take very freaking seriously. But move right along, guys. I did want to cover this because I keep saying that the gun bill that was passed by Biden would not do enough. And I like to see when states take on their own gun bills and try to make them more stricter. The governor in New Jersey just signed a gun bill that does exactly that.
Or I should say, no, we know that we can take on the epidemic of gun violence and win. We can put in place strong and smart gun safety laws that are consistent with the Second Amendment and still protect our communities. And surely there were those who said we would never get the gun safety bills we all supported through the legislature. There were those who said that we were being too ambitious, that the gun lobby was too strong, and that our political system would not have the will to take on and win this fight. But again, we believed differently. And guess what? Today, we are making Gun Safety Package 3.0 the law of the land. That if you want to buy a gun, you need to first complete a certified safety course. By the way, no different than if you want to drive a car where you have to get a license showing you know how to safely use it. The loophole that allowed gun owners moving into New Jersey to skirt the procedures that established New Jersey residents follow in order to qualify to purchase or obtain firearms, that loophole is hereby closed. We're finally requiring electronic record keeping of all ammunition sold in New Jersey to, again, help law enforcement monitor suspicious purchases and identify bad apple dealers and straw purchasers. In the face of the Supreme Court's tragic and wrong-headed ruling, we need those laws and all of these laws more than ever before.
Now think about that for a second. Everything that he just signed into law was beautiful. The fact that you're required to take a course, you're required to have you're required to have electronic digital footprint of the purchases made. That those two alone would make a hell of a difference. But I like the fact of seeing states take it upon themselves. And again, it's the same tactic that these extreme Christians and extreme conservatives are doing with abortion, along with voting. They're taking it to the state level, which again, I've said this many times in this podcast, guys. It's not always the federal level. If you can take it to the state level and get enough of them under there, you'll make an impact. But kudos to New Jersey for taking the steps forward, because again, I've been saying so the whole entire time, and other countries have shown us that gun reform with stricter conditions can make a difference. And, kudos to New Jersey for doing that. And we'll hope to see the effects from that as it comes out. Well, aside from that, just a couple more. Let's try it again. A couple more stories before we call it tonight, guys. I did want to cover this as well because I keep telling you guys about the dangers of a Supreme Court. Speaking specifically, a conservative Supreme Court, especially when you think about that with major cases. This is what they this is actually what they may do.
The abortion ruling is the most dramatic example of how far and how fast the conservative supermajority moved the court to the right. It didn't just uphold Mississippi's law banning abortion after 15 weeks, it also overturned the constitutional right to abortion. It didn't only strike down New York's law requiring a special need for a concealed carry permit, it said all gun regulations must have historic roots. It didn't just restrict the EPA, it said Congress has to explicitly let federal agencies take major actions. And it reduced the separation of church and state, ruling that taxpayer money can be used at schools that offer an explicitly religious education, and ruling for a football coach who led prayers on the 50-yard line immediately after games.
There are 6 relatively young Supreme Court justices who feel incredibly emboldened, incredibly aggressive to move American law to the right, and they are not stopping with this.
The court shifted to the right when Anthony Kennedy retired, succeeded by Brett Kavanaugh, and even more so with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, succeeded by Amy Coney Barrett. With Neil Gorsuch, 3 new justices appointed by Donald Trump. Justice Sonia Sotomayor calls the new conservative majority restless. All 3 liberals said the court overturned Roe at practically the first moment possible. But conservatives welcomed the change.
It's a court that is very much committed not to conservative political outcomes, but certainly to a conservative approach to reading the Constitution and the law.
And as Ketanji Brown Jackson takes her place, the court faces more contentious questions next term. Should it end affirmative action in college admissions? Do businesses have religious freedom to refuse to serve same-sex weddings? And should legislatures, not courts, get the last word in election disputes? The court may be moving faster than Chief Justice John Roberts would prefer, but he and Brett Kavanaugh are at center in the majority in 95% of the term's decisions.
And all I can sit there and say is, I'm concerned. I'm concerned because, again, this is why I'm so scared of a conservative Supreme Court. Because I've said it once and I'll say it again. If you have a conservative case and you're taking it to the highest court in the land, I used to say they didn't have a shot. But now that you have more conservatives than liberals and progressives on the Supreme Court, it is almost a guarantee. You saw them strike down laws, you saw them strike down abortion, and you think that Roe versus Wade is the end, considering the fact that almost every other monumental landmark Supreme Court decision case came after that, using that as precedent. Oh, it's just the beginning, folks. And that's the reason why we should be concerned. Why? Because with abortion, being, with Roe versus Wade being overturned, they will go after those abortion pills in the mail, because of course, you can get your abortion pills by mail. You don't think that states can try to go after that? Like I said before, especially in the South, you have a lot of these conservative red states that want to control women's bodies because, for lack of better words, women are not being seen more than broodmares. It's like The Handmaid's Tale. If you ever seen that on Hulu, really good show, really messed up, but explains so much about the current status of how women are looked at in America. But then again, the Supreme Court could have stopped it, upheld it, could have left it as the law of the land. But this is what happens when you have conservatives in the Supreme Court. They will rule conservative and not by law, but swear up and down that they are. I'm talking about you, Alito, Clarence Thomas, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett, because Kajani Brown Jackson, she feels like the woman that just literally came into a mess that was done by rock stars. And it's like, this is what I get to look forward to. Ain't this about it? Anyway, moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story as well, because again, along with the shootings that we've had over this weekend, a black man was literally gunned down. And I say gunned down because when they tell you the amount of ammo that was used for one individual, it is not only going to be alarming, it is going to be disturbing. And yes, if you're like me, you're going to be pissed off about it.
Why did this happen and in such a manner? Such a terrible, terrible way. That's why.
Jalen Walker's sister, Jada, and mother, Pamela, seeking answers to the early Monday morning police shooting of their son, whose only encounter with police before that was a speeding ticket.
I'm sick as a mother that it came to that. If they would have spent 5 minutes with him, it would never have ended that way.
Police say they tried to stop Walker for a traffic violation on East Talmadge Road, but he sped away. Police radio to dispatch they heard shots fired from his car. A few minutes into the chase, Walker slowed his car on Wilbeth Road near the Bridgestone tire offices. He jumped out and ran, a gun later found in his abandoned vehicle. 8 police officers surrounded Walker in a parking lot and fired more than 90 rounds after Walker, according to police, made a threatening move. Walker suffered 60 wounds, according to an autopsy report. Several shots were fired after he was on the ground, sources tell 3 News.
Different parts of the videos capture officers trying to deploy their tasers unsuccessfully, and then the public's going to see officers discharging their firearm. As the pursuit goes on, other officers that are responding know that a firearm was discharged, and they believe during this pursuit that the officers had been fired upon.
The shooting drew a small protest outside the City of Akron Police Department.
Why would y'all do this? That's all I want to know. That's all we want to know.
Concerns the shooting might spark larger unrest led to the cancellation of the city's Rib, White, and Blue Festival, a July 4th celebration set to begin tomorrow. The Walker family's attorney, Robert DiCello, said the video captured by police will answer critical questions.
The video is going to tell most of the story. There have been some allegations that are very serious on both sides of this case that the video should have ready and able to be seen. So we applaud the chief for making those available to us, and we plan on seeing that very soon.
Mark Namick, 3 News.
So yes, it's still a fact of the matter that young man, and the video is out there for you to see. And of course, literally the amount of rounds that was found, the amount of rounds that were fired at this man, even after he was handcuffed. After he was on the ground, he was still being fired upon. And just for transparency, yes, a weapon was found in the vehicle, but a weapon was not found on him when he was running from police. So it's this, again, I'm like, what was the need? Because they said he made a threatening move. Here's my thing. If you're running from police and you're the cop, you have backup, you have guns drawn, it's a foot race. What threatening move could he have made with his back turned to you that prompts all these officers to fire multiple rounds at the individual until he falls? And then once he falls, you decide to double tap. I mean, what more? I'm sorry, but what more? Especially 8 officers? 8 officers all fired. 8 officers are now on leave. Another mother is mourning her child. So it amazed me so that the same, even in Akron, that this is going on right now, that the mayor, assuming, thinking that people are going to riot, decides to come out and try to calm everybody.
Almost exactly 1 year ago today, the Akron City Council voted to enact a new law that ensures the release of video footage which documents an Akron police officer's use of force within 7 days of the incident. This ordinance was first recommended by the city's Charter Review Commission and was overwhelmingly approved by the residents of Akron. And it is clear what our community wants is to be able to review the information for themselves, and it is our commitment to be open and as transparent as we can be, given the fact that there is an independent investigation which we cannot put into jeopardy. Additionally, utilizing an independent entity to conduct the initial investigation into the incident will be a further step in increasing the trust and accountability with our citizens. Chief Milet and I both believe that this is the best practice going forward, and which many communities across the country are now doing. And it is the direction that we intend to move towards in any future events of deadly force. Both the city and the Akron Police Department are fully committed to this process, and I have every confidence that the investigation will be conducted in a fair, thorough, and just manner. Many will wish to air their grievances in public, and I fully support our residents' right to peacefully assemble, but I hope the community can agree that violence and destruction are not the answer. And let me echo the calls from a number of elected officials and community members right here in Akron that calls for peace in our city. This will be the constant urge over the next few days, is peace.
Yep, sounds like please do not riot, please do not break shit, please do not light anything on fire, please do not fight police. But the thing I'm going to keep saying on this is just that it amazed me so that why is it whenever a black person is gunned down by police, every leader, mayor, governor comes out, calls for calm, calls for peace, calls for the investigation. Let the process do its thing, but just let's not escalate. Why is it that it's only with black people? I have yet to see any time where they have turned around and said, "Oh, say a white person gets killed, say a Chinese person gets killed, say someone of a different, say a Latino gets killed." I don't see them saying the same thing. But whenever a black person is killed by the hands of law enforcement, and it looks suspect as all get out, and we had multiple individuals, multiple men that have all, died at the hand of a law enforcement officer who didn't lose their job. A lot of them didn't lose their jobs. A lot of them got promoted. A lot of them got to keep their pensions. A lot of them got to remain on the job. But very few of them, and I say very few were no longer law enforcement officers. Very few did not as much time in jail as they should have done. Especially, if you think about Amber Geiger and the fact that she walked in and broke into an apartment that wasn't hers and shot an unarmed man, and all she got was 10 years. That kind of says a lot. Or the officer that shot the other person running away from him, he got 20. It's like the punishments never add up. So yes, as black people, we do have a certain affinity toward law enforcement. And even more so that we're going to feel like the only way we get your attention is for us to be violent. Why? Because history has shown when a certain group out there was violent and wreaked havoc on other races, they seemed to get what they wanted. But as much as I want to sit there and say calm is, and much I want to say trust the process, that process has let us down multiple times. Even in times where, again, if you're white, chances are you'll walk. But if you're black, that's it. So yes, I would love to exercise calm. I really would. But at the same time, I can't blame black people. I can't blame the mother for how she's feeling. I can't blame her. She lost her child. At the same time, when you think about 60, 60 plus rounds, you need to fire that many bullets at one individual. That's not stopping it. That's murder. That is literally assassin. That is massacring someone. That is almost damn near borderline Emmett Till at that rate. But we'll follow that story as it comes along. But moving on, guys, we're gonna get on to our feel good segment because Lord knows we need one. Usually how the fact we got here, we usually cover a lot of things. A lot of things make doom and gloom, make you lose faith in humanity. But hey, it's hump day on this very shortened week, which feels like a long week. But tomorrow's Friday, which is Thursday, and we're just gonna try to get you to it. We're gonna try to put some positive vibes out there, some feeling good ones. And this one is definitely one where I have to sit there and say, why don't events like this happen to me? Because Lord knows I would do differently. But you'll see what I'm talking about.
Strong, the grandmother who found hidden treasure in her couch and gave it back.
Grandmother Vicky Umodu was eager to move closer to her family in Colton, California, proudly holding up her house keys in front of her new home. She sold her furniture before the move and looked on Craigslist for replacements, looking for something comfy to sit on while she helped raise her grandkids. Vicky eventually gets a sofa and 2 matching chairs, but then feels lumps inside. Later unzipping the cushion and finding cash, more than $36,000 worth.
I was just like, telling my son, come. I was screaming, come. It's money. I need to call the guy.
Determined to do the right thing and give the money back, she calls the owner. He tells her the chair belonged to a family member who died and who had apparently hidden money around the house. Because he was in such disbelief at Vicky's honesty, the man gave her $2,200 to buy a new fridge.
Giving the money back was just the right thing to do. The first thing that came to my mind was just to call the guy and return the money.
Tonight, Vicky's sitting on that chair with her 6-month-old grandson, Jay, grateful for the new refrigerator, saying it always pays off to do what's right.
I feel great about him giving us the $2,200, even though I was not expecting him to give us a dime. And I'm grateful and thankful for his generosity.
An example for all of us to follow.
Not all of us, Doc. Not all of us, because, look, first and foremost, let me say this. That woman did nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. The age-old integrity, the age-old integrity question of what would you do if you found said money outside a spot, do you take, what was the question? If you're leaving a bank and you step on an envelope full of money and it's not, and you found outside the bank, no one's there to claim it. You don't see who dropped it. Do you take the money back inside the bank or do you keep it? And look, let me stress this very, very heavily. There is nothing wrong to what the seasoned woman had done. If she believed in her heart she was doing the right thing, I can never knock that. I will not judge that. I will simply leave it at peace. But had that been me, I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna fail. That's $36,000. Sometimes a blessing is given and you should just say thank you and move on. But again, I am not knocking the lady. She did the right thing as far as her. That's her morals and standpoints. I've got nothing against it. But had that been me, I'd be like, cool, $36,000, let's pay some bills. But that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. We thank you all for watching, for liking, for sharing, for letting people know it's up and running. I certainly appreciate it. Before I do get out of here, I got to do some shameless plugging as usual. Shout out to my buddy Yvonne, Yvonne Westwood on Facebook, Big BZA on all socials, where you can see all of his shows and new beats. He does have a new beats page up on his IG at Big BZA Dot, so definitely check him out there. Of course, with his shows and his little short stints that he's doing, also on Big BZA Dot on all socials, and of course, Levon Witherspoon on Facebook. As far as yours truly, guys, you can find me on my IG handle, BlackBox447, to where I do usually post a lot of things on Instagram. a lot of reviews on movies, television, video games, also some gem stuff because I do a couple push-ups. At the same time, I am all about actually pushing people, being positively, pushing them, motivating people. I try to do it for myself, but always pushing others forward because we have had a rough couple of years and we really need to be more open with each other, be actually, encouraging each other. And especially especially if you're a black person, because I am unapologetically black. I am rooting for everybody black, but as black people, we do need to be more supportive and be helpful, be kind. Again, be kind. There is no, I'm not saying you got to be overly nice, but just basic fracking human decency. It takes zero energy to be kind. It takes 100% energy to be a dick. So simply put, be kind. Say hi. You never know what someone's going through, but simple fact of the matter is you might only lift up the spirits. You actually might save a life. But before I do get out here, guys, I know you see the ticker at the bottom. Let me blow it up just a little bit bigger. If you copy and paste that into your link tree, copy and paste this link into your browser, it will take you to my link tree that has the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack got here, Get Bit, and of course, y'all on this podcast. Definitely like, share, and subscribe. And let me know if you like it. If you like it, cool. If not, hey, I will still take it. I'm all for constructive criticism. That's all I'm saying. But beyond that, guys, again, let me also sit there and say that COVID-19 is still real. Please still wear a mask, especially heavily congested areas. Take care of yourselves in order for it to actually protect others. And like I said, when it comes down to it, we just need to be kinder. We need to be, check on your strong friends as well as the timid friends. We actually need to be doing a job better, especially as far as protecting people and humankind. That's all I'm saying. Last thing I'll say about how the Frack got here, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information to allow you to make up your own mind, but provide a logical perspective beside it. We do a lot better when we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Madam Vice President, like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, like electing our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first woman to be one of the high commanders in the U.S. Navy. When we don't learn from history, we are doing to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, guys, why does everything go up by our paychecks? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old game? And most importantly, how the Frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. We will all get through this.